What's happened is that technology has become small enough that you can have mobile workers. You can work in a variety of different locations these days. But you have to think of this like you would think of a flock of birds. Where does a bird land? Every point, we call them touchdown points, should be a location where that person can work in a healthy posture, where they can work in a comfortable setting, and where they can be productive in the work they do. So the key thing for companies is to think about, where do you want your people to work? Where do you want them to be in the building? In an office, in a meeting space, in a cafeteria? Are they going to be in some kind of collaborative space outside of the office? Are they going to be working from home? Do you want them working in a vehicle or on a plane? And when you think of it in those terms, each location can be planned so they can work in the most healthy way possible and the most productive way possible. And in that way, you won't have people who potentially get injured or make mistakes at work. They'll be healthy, happy, and productive employees. So what you have to do is to look at every situation and plan for what kinds of individuals are going to be in that situation. Are you dealing with people who are an older group of individuals? And if so, they have different requirements for strength, different requirements for hearing, for lighting, vision, and you can plan accordingly. Are you dealing with people who are very young and very fit? What size people are you dealing with? We don't all come in one size. Some people are much shorter, others are much taller. We don't all come in the same shape. Are you dealing with people who are slender or people who have more body mass? So you have to be able to look at what kinds of environments do you want to create for your employees. How much can you accommodate their needs with the equipment and the furniture you provide them with? How much do you provide them with training? We don't tend to train people in how to do work. So it's a bit like if you were, say, a cricket player and you played on a team, but nobody trained you how to hit a ball, how to bowl, how to field. That's often what we do with our employees. So you need ergonomics education, you need good ergonomic products, you need to be able to deal with the requirements of different generations, and you need to be able to ensure that you're monitoring how well your people are working, so that if there is a problem that's occurring, you can intervene and you can resolve the problem before it becomes a serious injury. That you have. So when you think about the workplace as a series of behavior settings, places where you want people to be as healthy as possible, as productive as possible, and to actually communicate effectively with other people. If you think in those terms, so that you can go beyond just the aesthetics. So you need to think about that in terms of what we call the behavior settings and how to design effective behavior settings for different groups of people, different kinds of work, different locations in a physical place. So one thing companies have to think about is, okay, what are the places that are going to be relatively fixed over time? So you can say, this might be the office design for the next 5 years. Probably not 10 years, because technology will be very different in 10 years' time. But then within that, you have to think about, okay, what are the life cycles of what you need? For example, if I go back, say, 30 years, the desks that were used were all desks that you sat at. Whereas these days we can have height adjustable work surfaces, so you can sit and you can stand and work in different ways. The chairs that we had were very heavy and very complicated to adjust. These days they're much lighter, easier to use. You just sit in them, they're very easy to adjust. So you have to try and anticipate, what are those changes going to be? The building might exist for many years, but what's inside the building will not exist for many years. It will change. So you have to try and plan for that flexibility. You have to try and plan for where will work be done. If you go back before the days of the internet, you had to sit or stand in one place in a building because that's where the connection was. Now you can work anywhere once you're on a network. So think again about where are all the touchdown spaces in the building? Do you want people working in cafe areas? Do you want people working in outdoors, in garden areas? Do you want people working in meeting rooms? Do you want them working at their desk? Are you going to have hot desking where people can change where they work in the building over time? And so work has become less dependent on location and more dependent on mobile technology. That means that people now don't have a lot of time to sit and adjust something or stand and adjust something. The adjustability has become much easier than it was in furniture 10 or even 20 years ago. And you need to train people, all right, so that they know how should they be working so they won't get injured. So I think in the future we're going to see environments that are very different. Artificial intelligence is starting to play some role now. People are working on systems where maybe the desk you have automatically will adjust to your working height, or the chair that you sit on might automatically adjust to how you should be sitting in a healthy way. So I think we're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years some major changes in the work environments. And that will mean that people should be able to be productive and healthy for much longer than they currently are in fixed workplaces. That's a great question. So first, let me say a little bit about ergonomics. There are really several different aspects to the study of ergonomics. There's what we call physical ergonomics, which deals with what are the sizes, the strengths, the capabilities of people. So you may have individuals who have some kind of physical issue. Maybe they don't have the strength of other people. Maybe they have limbs missing. Maybe they're in a wheelchair or some other device that accommodates their ability to work. Then we have what's called cognitive ergonomics. Cognitive ergonomics deals with how do people understand what they're doing? What does the brain do to process information? If you can't see or hear or understand what you're being asked to do, you can't be an effective worker. So we need to look at those cognitive issues as well. This is, by the way, is one of the reasons that we often will have things like an identification number or a credit card number, that we break down the digits into smaller numbers, into groups of 4, because we know that people can remember 4 things pretty well, but they can't remember 12 things very well unless you break them into 3 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 3. Then we have what's called environmental ergonomics. That means you have to look at what are the environmental conditions for a person to work in. What's the lighting? What's the temperature? Is it too hot, too cold? Is it wet? Is it dry? Is it windy? Is it stationary? Are you working in a building where things are fixed as opposed to being on a train or an airplane where you may be bouncing around? You're in motion. And then you have the final area called organisational ergonomics. This is, are people working in teams? If they are, how do they communicate effectively with other people in their team? They may have people who have different languages, or maybe have people of different ages, or people with different backgrounds. So to really implement a good ergonomics program, you have to plan to look at all those 4 areas, and that means accommodating the whole range of abilities of the people who are going to be employees in your organization. And in that way you can accommodate neurodiversity by looking at how you create these effective environments, effective information, effective equipment for people to use, and effective training for those individuals.